Hello YouTube and welcome back to another video on the Tool Teardown channel. In today's video we're going to have a look at the Makita 10.8 volt DF330D drill. Now this is a drill that's been discontinued by Makita. I don't quite know why. There's a lot of people that say, oh, it's old and it's not brushless and it's a bit underpowered, and I quite like it. It's nice and compact, it's stick battery style. The replacement of this drill has got this little block at the bottom here. It's got a bigger housing, so it's less compact, and this thing only weighs a kilo, so it's nice and handy, nice and light, really nice. Comes in most cases as a set, so you get the little impact driver together with it. They're the same size, same batteries, nice and handy, and I use them a lot. I bought these in 2014. This is a 2014 build year. As is these. I had these for 7 years now, and I used and abused them a lot. I mean, you can see I've worn the paint off the Makita logo. This one not so much, but I still used it. I've also got the impact wrench with it, which you can see I used a lot in the car. Because they're so small, you can get into the tight areas to get those stubborn bolts loose and stuff, so it's great. I bought this actually a little bit later, so that's why this is a 2015 model here, but I like these two so much I thought I need to get my hands on one of these. So, discontinued, so you could argue what's the point of doing a review? So we're not doing a review today, we're going to do a bit of a how to take a drill apart in case you want to do it yourself. So, before we get started, what do you need? So obviously you need something to get the screws out. Now this might be depending on the type of drill that you want to take apart. Now if you use this video as a guide to take your Makita DF330D apart, then it's going to be exactly the same. Got a screwdriver, or you can use its sister with the right bit to take the screws out. We're going to take the chuck off as well, in case you want to replace the chuck. For that you'll need an Allen key and the appropriate tool to undo the fastener that holds the chuck on. In this case it's a flathead screw. Keep in mind that the chuck is held in with left-handed thread, so you have to turn it the other way to undo, and we'll get to that in a bit. So you need the appropriate tool to do that, and then the Allen key to span it, to basically use it as a leverage to undo the actual chuck from the drill, because that's pre-tensioned on there as well. Having said that, you might need a hammer to just tap it loose, because it can be a bit tight, so I have a hammer on standby just in case. Let's just do it properly. So we've got the hammer, you got your screwdriver for the screws of the body, you got your screw for the chuck, you got your little Allen key for the chuck, whoops. A magnet might come in handy to get some of the little clips and stuff out there. We'll get to that in a bit. And then to put it back together, you might find yourself using some tweezers, needle nose pliers, to get some of the little finicky parts in there properly. A small little flathead screwdriver might also help, just to position and relocate and make sure that everything is properly in home before you put it back together. So these are all the tools that you might find yourself needing. So pretty much everybody's got one of these, and then if you're a bit lazy or you want to do it a bit quicker, you could use a power tool to undo the fasteners. So we can add that to the occasion. But yeah, that's literally everything you need. I thought, what's the point of reviewing one of these when you can't buy them anymore? But I just thought, maybe for those people who have one and they want to keep it going because they like it as much as I do, we'll take it apart, have a look how it's on the inside, and then if you ever needed to replace any components, then there's a little handy video that shows you how to put it all apart and put it back together. So we'll do the full take it apart and putting it back together series, sequence. If there is an interest, then let me know in the comments below. We can do the same with this one and this one. They're all very similar. I mean, you can see the layout, they're all fairly identical. terms of the way they look and the way they are put together. So they will be very similar, but yeah, let me know if you do find this stuff useful. Then we'll do a few more. Right. So very simple. A few little posi head screws. So we'll take them out using its little sister here. There's only a few of them. Oh there. No, it's not long enough. I knackered all my bits doing house renovations, so I need to go and get some more bit sets because using the impact driver so much, which is great. It does knacker the bits. Okay. So as per the there we go. Oh, there we are. So down the bottom of the drill where the battery goes, there's a little metal clip, if you like, a retainer that holds the bottom end of the two halves of the clamshell together. So we'll have to remove that, which just slides out. It's a little metal slider which just slides into that little opening there. So that's just the little clip that goes in there. It just slides in there. Yeah. There's another one on the other side, same procedure. There you are. And that's the ticket there. She's a bit rusty because kept in the garage and everything. Oops. A little screwdriver, you just poke them out, nice and easy. No troubles. Right, and then you can just take it apart. There we go. The drill in all its glory after many years of use. So yeah, the dust and grime of 7 years of use and abuse is, and it's held up pretty well. I mean, I've cleaned this with brake cleaner and with my dirty fingers. I mean, you can still see some of the oily stuff from when I did car work on the cars. Right, then the whole unit, as in electronics and the motor, gearbox, mechanicals, they all come out as one. Just be careful with the little LED that's sort of routed through there. So that's the actual internals of the drill, nothing much to it, but that's why I think these things are bulletproof to a way, because there isn't a lot to go wrong really. Forwards backwards selector switch, come with a little arrow on them, forwards, and then this one is pointing, obviously that one because I turned it around, but I'll point backwards, if I flip it around. That just sits in there, slides up and down there, which controls the little peg on the very dirty trigger switch there. Let's have a look at the internals. She's very dirty. Let me just get a rag and we clean her up a little bit. The gearbox selector, the high and low gearing, if you like, the switch that sits at the top in there. Two little springs, so be careful when you pull it off, like I just did. That'll be a fun job to put back together. Oh dear, today's not going well. I should have stayed in bed, I think. The gearbox in all its glory, which is falling apart. Jesus, what's going wrong with me today? Oy, oy. Planetary gear set. Just be careful when you take it apart. The gears have got different heights, as in different sizes for the different forces. So put the right gears in the right grouping, if you like. But yeah, that's how easy they come apart. It just literally falls apart. Little cap at the end there to protect the gears from damaging the housing. Then a little brushed motor, very dirty. with all its use. So this is the actual electric motor of the drill. And I don't know if this picks up, but yeah, it's a made in China. And it's got type numbers on there. The QD144524 CCW15. I'll put it down in the description there. I don't know if this is a Makita owned motor or if this is just an off-the-shelf part from a motor manufacturer as such. Nice beefy trigger switch, nothing wrong with that. Again, I'll put the type numbers in the video below. Yeah, this is your forwards and backwards, and then in the middle is your sort of safety lock. Got the feed for the motor, which is connected there. Two little spades that go into the switch, so this is all, there's no soldering required. If you were to having to replace the motor, you can pull the spades off using a pair of pliers, or if you want to have to replace the switch because the electronics have gone a bit boo-boo on you, then you just pull them out here. So there's no soldering required as such. A little wire that controls the LED light, which lives in the front there. Get some lights on there and go into the switch there, which is nice. And then the battery terminal. So the only two soldering points on this switch is basically with the wires for the battery terminal soldered onto the bottom, so you're neutral there. And then there's a spade connector onto the battery terminal there, and the same goes for the positive, which is nicely done. And then the battery terminal there with all its part numbers. So this plastic is actually a PBT with a 30% glass fibre. I'll put the description of what that means down below, with the part number there as well. I'll put that in there as well. So if you ever needed any of the parts, then you've got them there. But yeah, it's very well labelled up. So you've got your B plus, your B minus, which is your battery plus, your battery minus, and then you got your M2 and M1, your M1 being your motor feed, your M2 being your motor return, as in the neutral or the ground. Sorry, not the ground, the neutral, yeah, or the minus. So foolproof in terms of its assembly. So this is your selector ring for the gears. So 1 and 2. So basically by sliding it one way or the other, you engage the gears. So let's put this back together quickly. So this would be your this is your faster setting, and then you basically, you can see in there, you move that ring and you're turning it from the planetary sat that's down here onto the planetary sat that's up in here, which is now on the table, and basically make the whole thing turn at a different speed because of the different gear ratios. So yeah, sintered metal, as in it's a powdered metal which gets under heat and pressure, gets shaped into little gears or ring wheels. So yeah, that's the bottom half. So this will be your that'll be your fast, then this is your reduction, and then this will be your slow speed gear ratio as a set there. So there's little pegs there which should be actually crimped together, but I guess because of the heat, the plastic, which is this is the plastic housing of the gearbox, it's gone a bit hot. The the pin that holds it together is come apart. I mean, in the assembled condition, they're all a bit loose actually. In the assembled condition, they can't come apart because they're held in place by the outside housing. So just be mindful of. There we go. Falls out again, but yeah, they're so tiny. They're basically these little pins that hold the gearing in place on the selector. So this is your selector, which this button lives on. That slides it between the one and the two, the fast and the slow. So yeah, this is normally where I would say goodbye, but in this case we're going to put it back together, and then I'll just quickly show you how to take the chuck off, because that's something we should have done right at the beginning. And you don't need to take the drill apart to take the chuck off. That's a separate entity altogether. There's a fastener in there. We'll show you how to do that. Using a vise and a little tool or an impact driver to just undo it. The left-handed thread, so you have to turn it the other way to loosen it. But yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. So let's put it back together in reverse order. So firstly we have to reassemble the bits of the gearbox that have come apart, which is this little baby. So we'll have to put the little pegs back in place that hold this in place, and then there's the little pin. I'll just have to, the pin that goes into that slot there, which goes there. There we are, like so. And then this goes like there, so that can all move freely. There we go, that's working. Then we have this baby that goes in, this peg goes in there. Then we have these little three, oh, hold on a minute, I need to put this one on. There we go. That one. And the last one there. Then you got your little cover plate, which basically protects the gears from slamming into on the edge there. Let's show the so little pegs there, and there's two more on this side. They slot in these little openings here, and then they slide under these little clamps, if you like, to hold the assembly together. So we'll do that now. So we just have to get the gear in first, so this gear has to obviously align with the teeth in there. Bit of debris in there, and then you just twist it, and then that's together. 1430, that's the gear reduction number on there for you. So there's all the debris out of the drill. To give you an idea of the fast and slow speed, so it's about half. Now the fun job of putting this back on with all these springer thingies on them. So basically it's got two springs to always center onto the peg, which whoops, jumps off. Yeah, she doesn't want to stay put. And then the trick is there to basically put it in the assembly, as in the housing, because it tends to want to fly off, if you like. But before we can do that, let's run the LED back to where it's supposed to be. So this one lives like so. So the board will slot in there, and then the LED will be nicely positioned in the opening there. Then we'll have to just carefully route the wires so they live like so, and then so they basically run parallel to this. There's a little peg there which they go behind. There's a little one there which they go behind, so that they basically don't get caught up in the mechanics of the situation. And then they go through that little opening there, and then they sort of clip in there as well. And then it's a matter of putting this together as a whole. So the battery terminal has its own little slot as well, so that slots in there, so that the battery terminal is positioned correctly and can't move, obviously. So that sits there nicely. And the wires for the motor, they basically just fall into place, so they go through that little opening there. The little metal ring that sits around these cables goes around the back there and onto the motor, like so. And the only thing which you must not forget is the directional switch, which you have to sort of slot in at the same time as the trigger switch assembly. And I always like to assemble them with it being centered in the lock position, so that you know that the whole thing is working properly. And just before you put it all together, just operate it once to make sure that obviously it's moving. And then the other little situation that you have to be careful about is the torque setting ring. It's got the little shape here in the clamp. So this opening here that runs inside of it, so make sure that you don't have it poking out, because then it will be loose and it won't actually work, so it won't actually engage in anything. And then just test it to make sure that it's actually working properly. Now you know that there is no click action, if you like, so that's where this spring comes in handy. So this little spring, there's a little opening here, there, that spring goes in there, is directional, so it's got the little T at the end there, and it's got the slot, so the slot goes in there where it needs to be, and then you can hear the clicking again. And the spring, obviously it's not supported in this way, so that's why it only clicks that way, because it slides. Oh, you can see there it's supported that way, but then when it goes the other way you can see it pops out. So that's that bit, so that's working. You can see the sliding mechanism there, so that's good. So now we've tested all the functions, let's put it together. Now I always like to put a few screws in first to make sure that it's all happy. Do them up gently at first, because if you have any trapped mechanisms, wires, electronics, whatever, then obviously it's going to be problematic. So that's working. That's good. That's good. Nice. That's working. Good. So now we know that's all there and it's working. Let's put it back together, mechanically at least. Right there and there. Let's do the screws first, gently. And then we'll torque them up when we have these two little clips in place. Yeah, there's that one. And that one. Oh, that's not clipped in properly. Hold on. There we are. So there you go. So just a highlight on them. Where did I put my light? Right here. So they're like little clamps, if you like. Oh, this is not focusing. Right. So they're like little clamps that basically grip round. So you can torque them up by hand. Put the right screwdriver. Nice and tight, there we go. Okay, time for... Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't drop your battery on the floor, it's not good for them. Luckily I've got a foam mats around the workbench. So that's all working. Torque settings are fine. Forwards, backwards. So there you have it. So the only thing left to do is take the chuck off. So for that we're going to move over to the vise, which is just over that way. And then I'll just quickly show you how to take the chuck off. Because this one, with the amount of play in it, yeah, that might be able to be useful for a few of you guys. So obviously before you do any work, battery has to come out as a priority. Let's zoom out a little bit. Whoop, there we go. So the battery comes out as a priority, obviously, for safety. Plus, if you put it in the vise, you don't want to crush the battery and potentially set fire to your house or shop. What we'll do is have a little rag so we don't scratch the hell out of them, like I did with my handheld drill, which slipped in the vise, which knackered the aluminium housing. This is plastic, so it's whoa, a little bit more forgiving. Sorry, I just put a light on there so you guys can see. So the trick with these is always have it in setting 1, as in the low gearing, and have it in forwards so that you can undo the chuck without having to work against the drill basically, and then put it in the lowest torque setting. Torque setting 1. Sorry, I should have done that before, but basically, yeah. Put it in torque setting 1. There we go. Don't go crazy on it because you'll break the housing. Just enough so that it stays put when you're trying to undo it. And then open her up. Make sure the chuck is accessible, as in the fastener down in the chuck. Now these things are Loctite in, and keep reminding you, left-handed thread, so you basically want to tighten it to loosen it. So Loctite, because obviously it's the bit that holds your drills and everything in place, the working end of your tool. So you want to make sure that obviously it doesn't go wonky. So when you put it back together, have a look at the thread. You can either clean it up, remove the existing dried out Loctite, put some new one on, twist it, there we go. So that's the little screw that holds the chuck in place. Flathead, as you can see, which this chuck can take up to 10 millimeters, so an 8mm Allen key should be fine. So a little help with a hammer, and then you can just loosen it by hand. If it's easier, you can actually put the drill in so that the chuck is horizontal, so that you can just tap downwards, which gives you a little bit more force. For the sake of the camera angle, this is probably easier, and then you can just undo the chuck like so. So that's all that's basically at the end of it. It's just threaded on there, and then you can just undo the Allen key, get rid of the old chuck, put a new one on it if you want to replace the chuck because it's worn out, jammed, damaged, whichever way. You can do it with a similar fashion. Just hand tighten it, don't go all hammer action on you, because you damage a new chuck even before you used it. So put it on. This is just normal thread, so lefty loosey, righty tighty. Just hand tighten it, and then you put your widen it out so that the screw can go in there again, and then it's left-handed thread, so you turn it left hand to tighten it, which is, you know, when you're not used to it, a bit strange, but we'll get there in the end. And then just hand tighten that one, and there you have it, the usable drill chuck. Put the battery in it. Let's put a drill bit in it. There you have it. Working. A disassembly and an assembly of a Makita drill. So I hope that this video is helpful for those of you who got one of these, and instead of throwing it in the bin because it stopped working, just keeping it going. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was a useful video to some extent. It wasn't so much a regular review of a tool video, it's more of a how to take a tool apart video, which if you want to do it yourself, there you go. Fairly straightforward, very simple. The good thing about this Makita is it's got very clear part numbers and stuff on the components, so once you're taking it apart, you can just order online, go on Google for the parts, get the parts, put it back together, and you have a usable drill again without having to splash out hundreds of pounds or dollars or euros on a new tool. You can just keep using your existing tool. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. If you're not already done, press the subscribe button right there. And then I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, and stay safe and take care of yourself and all that good stuff. See ya.